the simple fact to look like assholes even more than the public already imagines they are. So then they get to boo these guys. They get to throw snowballs at people. They get to throw ice and beer and all this stuff. And it's freaking hilarious.
So you listed all those things they throw at people, but you left out batteries and vomit.
Well, that's vomit's a little bit tough, but
here's the thing, though. Like, if you look at recent histories, though, I mean, like,
vomited on a little girl, right? That's a thing. That was the Phillies fans, not even Phillies fans. But like they intentionally gagged himself and barfed on a girl wearing the opposing team's clothes intentionally.
Yeah, here's the thing, though.
Live, by the way, I randomly put us live, so this is all on our thing.
If that's a Diamondbacks fan that does that, you don't hear about it.
That's better though than the Dodgers fan goes and beats the crap out of the Giants fan and whoops his ass near to death. I'd rather him just vomit on me. You know what I mean? Like there's worse things.
I think we're making trade-offs we don't necessarily should be having to make here.
That's why the Lions fan base is top notch, because we're just always there at every game, and we got that Canadian love. Just come on in. Yeah, you're gonna beat us, but we're here to drink with you. That's fine. Let's have some fun, dude. Go Lions.
That's what 20 years of low expectations will get you.
Yeah, it's exactly 20 years, 50 years.
Okay, fair enough. I was trying to be conservative.
Thanks, but no. Let's bring back the 50s, man.
Everyone watching live right now, we're just talking about the Philadelphia fans and how horrible they are. They don't think they're that horrible. I'm from Philly, so I'm allowed to call them horrible.
I'm just saying I respect the consistent passion that they show.
I think they're horrible, but I love the fan base.
They're consistent. I'll give them that. They're consistent.
If you're talking about opposing fan bases, I mean, obviously, like, you dislike almost all of them. Like, you know, there's a few exceptions here and there, but all I care about is, like, nothing infuriates me more than when I see like a random team win and then they just have a bunch of shitty fans that just disappear a year after the team win, like its team starts losing. You know, I want if a team that beats me is going to win a title, I want those fans to be going absolutely apeshit and those fans to have been there the entire time.
Right.
So like when the Pats lost to the Eagles, yeah, it was a bummer, but you know, honestly, I was really happy for my really good friend from college who was an Eagles fan who has just been living and dying with that team his entire life and actually got to see them win. And I don't know, I just have a different view on him, I guess, I you know what it is because I have more distance from them than you do, Matt. So like you're constantly surrounded by them, so I don't have to deal with it as much. So I understand why you would have a slightly darker version of, you know, how you view them than I do.
See, this is weird because I'll run into people around here. So I'm from around Philadelphia, not an Eagles fan. I'm a Packers fan, but they don't really care about that. I'm not a Giants fan. I'm not, a Cowboys fan. So they don't care. They don't even care about Redskins fans. They literally don't. If you were, they don't care. They don't care.
Number one is Cowboys. That's it. Like,
it's kind of how Packers fans feel about Lions fans.
And Lions fans about Packers fans. Right?
No, but I'm a Mets fan, which that confuses the hell out of them. So, but I'm also a Sixers fan. I am a Sixers fan local. So we'll be like high-fiving about the Sixers and they'll talk about the Phillies and I'm like a Mets fan. And they don't know how to feel about me then. But either way, Eagles fans.
You got to throw a wrench into it. It's always good to throw a wrench into things. You know, you can't get too chummy every once in a while. But I will tell you, if the Lions ever do win the Super Bowl, the parade and the fan base that shows up for that parade, it will be a madhouse. It will be crazy. I have to assume it's going to be on par with Philly, if not a little bit more.
We need you guys to get better so that the Thanksgiving 1 o'clock game is entertaining because you literally always have it forever.
So brutal.
It's so bad. There was one year Peyton Manning put up like 8 touchdowns against us.
Yeah, no, that was his record-setting year when he had his passing touchdown record.
Thanks to us.
Yeah, I think that was 2004, 2005.
All right, we actually have an audience right now, so we should probably talk about DFS. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. If you have any questions, throw them up in the chat. We're going to be talking DFS Week 17, which is the most unpredictable, insane. What's more unpredictable, Week 17 or Week 1? Because Week 1, you got the pricing out in June.
I think Week 17 is harder. Yeah. Because at least with Week 1, there's so much weird value that pops up because of like late camp developments and like injuries that pop up.
And people are playing.
Yeah, and there's like, yes, the cash lines go bananas just because there's a ton of people playing and there's a ton of lineups filled out and there's a lot of value on the board. But you know, a lot of the chalk hits Week 1 every year. I think Week 17 is way more unpredictable because you have to judge how much a team actually cares about their final game. You have to judge how much, you know, free agents are looking at. Do I need to show well at the end of the season, or do I need to protect myself for a contract here? Like, there's a lot of other factors that you don't have to deal with any other week.
All right. So we usually talk about, for everyone who doesn't watch DF statistics, we've been gone for a little while. That's my fault. I'm not getting into the reasons because you don't know me. All my friends know, and that's all they need to know. We usually talk about DraftKings. Usually, Nick is with us today, which I didn't do any intros. I just went live with the show. So for everyone listening, audio only, welcome back to DF Statistics for Week 17. I'm your host, Matt Williams. Scott Michaud is here, and Mr. Nick Faber, you know him from Daily Blitz, is here. What is up, everybody?
What is going on, guys? I hope everyone had a happy holidays. It's been tough. We're jumping in Week 17. What a fun week to jump into, right?
Yeah, that's really just coming back with a nice predictable slate here. That's really good of us.
Exactly.
So we usually do DraftKings on the show. You usually do FanDuel, Nick. Why do you like one over the other? Just curious.
See, there is no reason. And the simple fact, and it might sound lazy, but FanDuel was the first thing I ever downloaded. And due to that, I just stuck with it. I won with it the first year I ever played. And I just was like, this is like change. You know what I mean? I don't like change. So
it's like, oh, there's this new app, DraftKings. Well, FanDuel's never pissed me off, so I'll just stick with it.
That's exactly right. So no reason, but I did jump on DraftKings. I made some lineups. I'm ready to talk DraftKings.
DraftKings has a much more fun logo. So
is that why you picked it?
That's
like the classic March Madness bracket choice.
Yeah, so let's jump into quarterbacks here. Quarterbacks. What do you think of quarterbacks this week? The number one quarterback on the board is price-wise is Lamar Jackson. By the way, don't play Lamar Jackson. Welcome to Week 17.
Yeah.
RG3. Any interest in Mr. Rig 3 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one, in a game that Mark Ingram is not going to be in and Baltimore has no desire to win whatsoever?
I'll jump in, and I'm definitely not going with RG3. I think it'll be fun to watch him play, and I hope the best for him. I truly do. I hope he can come out here and prove me wrong, put up 3 touchdowns. But Pittsburgh's defense is legitimate, and they are going to obviously be playing for something where Baltimore might not, is obviously not playing for as much as Pittsburgh is. So give me RG3 on a kind of a lower end game. If anything, Gus Edwards in this game is a little bit more intriguing, but I'm not an RG3, Scott.
He's 5,100. You bring up anyone that cheap, but I think you nailed it. Gus Edwards, I think, is the only guy you touch in this game.
I think Justice Hill is actually a little bit interesting as more of a pass catching back. But I think RG3, he's interesting. I'm slightly interested just because the rushing floor will be there. So you would imagine a safe floor. I mean, Pittsburgh is a tough matchup. But Baltimore has just been cranking out yards on the ground all year long. It's not like he's coming in completely cold. He has had some game action here and there. I don't know. The price is decent. I wish it was actually sub 5.
I think he's the cheapest. I think he's the cheapest quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. I think Darnold maybe 5,000 even. But of all the starting quarterbacks, I think he's about as cheap as it gets.
And to be honest, I'd rather have Darnold than Griffin this week. And I know Darnold's playing Buffalo, but I don't imagine Buffalo's going to be sitting there playing all their starters. And if they do, not all game. I mean, what are they playing for right now?
Well, they have to win.
I think a few they're locked in, right?
Are they locked in? I know New England's got to play because they want to lock up the bye.
Right, but
New England has to play for the bye, but New England has a division locked in. So I think Buffalo's 5 or 6.
Yeah, and Tennessee's not jumping from 6 to 5. That's not going to happen. So Buffalo's locked in at 5, which means they're not going to be playing there. That's why I like Jamison Crowder. And if you want to go cheap, go Jamison Crowder or Sam Darnold as a little stack and hope that they can come out and kind of play for a little bit more meaning than Buffalo. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, in comparison to RG3, give me Sam Darnold over him.
Yeah. Oh, no, I said already. I know you said Justice Hill. The only person I'm touching in this game is Gus Edwards, only because when Ingram left, he's the guy who got the majority of the work. I think that Baltimore just wants this game to end. Therefore, I don't think they'll be passing too much. I think they're just going to keep running it. They'll be down 46-0 and running the ball.
It also makes me wonder, though, because Edwards is the clear backup to Ingram. We don't fully know what the extent of Ingram's situation is. Could Baltimore protect Edwards a little bit by running Hill a bit more? So, I mean, that's the only thing that – I mean, it's thin, but I don't know. I don't think it's a home run with Edwards.
I see. The 4,800 is what makes him interesting.
Right. That's true. I think for Justice Hill, he's kind of solidified as that pass catching back. I don't think they're going to try to give it to him a good 10, 12 times this game. I think it'll be more Gus Edwards for 16, 18 times and Justice for 5 or 6. And for a cheap price, what Hill is, yeah, he might be able to like add some benefit if you're just going to stack the top end. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm just on Gus Edwards only. With Marquise Brown out, RG3 playing, I'm not like even Mark Andrews is a guy that I'm not trying to go for. I just give me Gus. It's like Matt said, it's a running game. This is what it's going to be.
All right, well let's get back to the quarterbacks here. At the very top of the list, you got Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. Are the guys right around? Or no, actually, Rodgers below 7,000. So Mahomes, Brees. Are you interested in going at any of the top price guys this week? I like Rodgers right there at 6,900. Obviously at Detroit. No offense, Nick, but you can't trust the Green Bay offense, period. So, I mean, there's a lot of cheaper options I'd probably much rather go with this week, like Jared Goff, 6,200 home versus Arizona's. But what do you guys think of the top price guys? And by the way, Ryan Tannehill hanging right around at 6,800 versus Houston.
I think if you're looking at the list on DraftKings, Tannehill is the top guy that I would consider. Rodgers' price is nice, but I think
they're definitely going to try to win.
They are, yes,
they want
but
that buy, same as New England, same.
They do. But I think they still are going to want to try to protect, Rodgers a little bit here. They don't want to just expose him as much as they need to. And it's not like Detroit is you have to pass on Detroit. I mean, they've got 2 really good options in the backfield. They hand the ball off to a bunch of times. They can win in that game, probably without a ton of resistance. Sorry, Nick. So I don't know. I think
he's needed, boys. We're trying to lose this game. We're trying to get the second pick.
You're the only one, by the way. What was last week? All the worst teams are tied at 35 going into overtime. What the hell was that?
I was scared shitless that Miami was going to freaking lose, that the other one was going to tie. I was pissed as shit. I was staying at 5, and I was mad.
Giants are going to beat the Eagles this week, by the way.
No, we need the Redskins to win now.
Do you?
We need the Redskins to win. Redskins have to beat the Cowboys. Let's go fucking go Redskins, baby.
All right. If you're fine with having the Lions lose, go Redskins. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go Skins. Let's go Packers. I'm gonna jump in too, Scott. Sorry, I don't know if you were completely finished, but I will jump in.
Just one last thing. I think that the ceiling for Rodgers is a little capped. Is my big thing. And if you're looking at for $100 less, I think Tannehill.
This is why Week 17 sucks. Because you don't know what they're going to do. It's like, are they going to protect Rodgers? They really should protect Aaron Jones since Jamal Williams is hurt. But they need to run the clock down. So, I mean, are we going to see a lot of fullbacks in this game? You don't know what to expect. And then some games will go this weird route where they'll sit people, but then they'll be like the Ravens. Like, they'll be going probably full speed ahead for the entire game and, like, put up 70 points. Like, you never know with Week 17. You literally, it's horrible.
It's 100% true, but for Week 17, and because of that reason, I don't want to spend a lot of money on my quarterback. Even Ryan Tannehill on the road has thrown 6 touchdowns and 4 picks in 5 games. At home, he's thrown 14 touchdowns and 2 picks. He's a different man. So don't go thinking that Tennessee and Houston's about to be a 40 to 45 game. It's not. It's going to be a Derrick Henry show. I bet any money. I'm trying to Aaron Rodgers. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. I actually really love Allen Lazard because Slay will be right on Adams the whole time. So give me Lazard to break out. But I don't want Rodgers for that. And Drew Brees, they said they're playing the starters, but I'm not going to go and start Drew Brees because at third quarter, he might not be playing anymore. Like, I'd rather have the Saints defense. Like, there's other guys on these teams and these games that I would rather have than these top quarterbacks. Give me someone more like Andy Dalton, who I think is going to have a hell of a last game for the Bengals in a shootout against the Browns. So even like a chance on Baker Mayfield, I don't suggest it, but it's an opportunity. Carson Wentz playing a horrible Giants defense or Danny Dimes in the vice versa. Like, there's a lot more guys to be taken for quarterback at a position that is a crapshoot anyway than hoping Aaron Rodgers goes out there and throws 5 touchdowns and is in the game in the fourth quarter up 41-7 or something.
I can agree with that. Like, Rodgers is 6,900, but Tannehill's only $100 less for 68. And if you're talking about guys like Daniel Jones, you have to go down $300 or $400 to get to him. So it's not a huge difference. But Tannehill's definitely going to be in the game the whole time. They have to win that game. That's a game they want to win.
But like I said, he's different on the road. He's not the same Tannehill. He's not going to go out there and throw a ton. It's going to be I have a feeling.
But if he's running, that's fine with me. And I'm not worried about losing 1 point for an interception on DraftKings.
How confident are we? Like, where's Houston's motivation to try in this one?
They don't really have one. I think it's just a pride thing.
Yeah, they got locked up, right? They're over Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I like Tannehill, but yeah, I mean, obviously Derrick Henry could be one of the better bets of the whole weekend, coming off the hamstring, which I think most people by now think that they just kind of he could have played last week, but it wasn't necessary. This is the game they know they needed him for, and they kind of saved him for. So, yeah, the Texans' run defense has not been good lately. It's actually trailed off quite a bit. So, yeah, the Titans need a win. I think Tannehill's a fine option, but yeah, I kind of agree. There's a lot of cheaper guys here. Going between Tannehill and Daniel Jones, like we just said, it's Deshaun Watson. You're not going that direction. Jameis Winston, Matt Ryan playing each other. How do you guys like the two of these guys? As Jameis Winston looks for history, 5,000 passing yards and 5,000 interceptions.
Well, he is on the verge of the first 30-30 season for a quarterback, which I heard about it a few weeks ago, and I've wanted nothing more ever since. And he really, really put on a great showing last week with just the pick fest that he was tossing out there. So I think he's only 2 or 3 away from doing it, which would be just incredible.
And by the way, 30 interceptions is 7th most all time in the NFL.
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Because it didn't. I was like, damn, he's about to throw 30 interceptions. That's kind of crazy. Vinny Testaverde threw 35, Frank someone threw 34, some other guys threw 32. Like, he's up there with some history. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. You know what's even more wild is when we have to explain to people 10 years from now that he and Ryan Fitzpatrick were on the same team together, like that's going to blow people's minds that just forgot about that Tampa Bay season. It's going to be incredible.
Who's better, Jameis Winston or Ryan Fitzpatrick? It's Winston. It's Winston.
Yeah.
If you needed to win a game tomorrow, who's your quarterback?
Give me Fitz, baby. I want Fitz all day.
If I had to have someone win the game, definitely Fitz. If I want someone to give me more fantasy points, maybe Winston.
Yeah.
Although Fitz was like kind of a monster last week. All right, moving on. Jared Goff at home versus Arizona. He's just been like the mother of all horrible quarterbacks this week. He's 6,200. Carson Wentz 6,100 at the Giants. Because it's obviously a must win against a horrible defense with the $100 difference. Do you just go with Wentz here if you're picking between? Or, I mean, Jared Goff obviously has a beautiful matchup. They have nothing to play for, but they're probably still going to go out there and try to put Arizona away. But, again, week 17, you don't know what to expect. I would have to say Carson, you just have to almost overlook Goff's delicious matchup, right? And just go with Carson Wentz because he's guaranteed to go out there. But again, week 17, if they're up big, he could still get pulled from the game.
I'd much rather go Carson.
I'm going Goff, and for a couple factors here. Who the hell is Carson Wentz throwing the ball to?
Who has he been throwing the last few weeks? It hasn't mattered. He's put up 20 points in the last, more than 20 points in the last few weeks.
Right,
throwing to nobody. Throwing to Greg Ward and his 2 tight end sets.
If you're only counting on 20 points, though, why wouldn't you go much cheaper?
You didn't ask me if I would use Wentz over everybody. You asked me between Goff and Wentz, who would I prefer? And it's definitely Wentz.
There's a few things here. Ertz might not be playing. Looks like he might not be playing. It's only Goddard now, which was why I like Goddard a lot in DFS. Miles Sanders. The Giants are one of 2 teams to not allow a running back to catch a touchdown this year. The Niners and the Giants. Don't look at Miles Sanders to catch your touchdowns from Carson Wentz. Greg Ward's the only guy out there along with Dallas Goedert. Now you're not going to be able to run your 2 tight end sets if Ertz doesn't play. That right there is going to limit Carson Wentz. They're going to be running a different kind of a game. I would rather go with Jared Goff and Sean McVay to come out and just show everyone that he's not going to just step off the gas, even though it's week 17. It's McVay. I have a feeling that he's just going to come out trying to pound it on a divisional opponent. So give me Jared Goff in a bounce back game over Carson Wentz. But that's personal. That's personal. That's just me.
I don't think either one is so strongly above the other.
I'm not buying it. I don't have any of them in my line.
I'll say this. Yeah, I'm not going to put either one of. I'm going to have no exposure to either one of these 2.
I do like Goff's matchup, but the Cardinals have been better on defense. And Chandler Jones is 4 sacks away from breaking the all-time record. Does Jared Goff give it to him if he's got 3?
Does he fall down, Brett Favre style when he sees Chandler Jones coming? Just goes into the fetal position and
maybe that'd be pretty crazy if Chandler Jones broke the record this year.
Yeah, because nobody's talked about it until pretty much this week.
He's like a top 10 defensive talent right now. Like in the top 100, he should be in the top 10 if he breaks that record.
He is the the lone Patriot player who they gave away, and it actually, kind of came back to hurt them a little bit.
For $100 less than the guys we were just talking about is Tom Brady, who I love this week and will be the first time I will be deploying him in DFS all season. I ignored him versus the first matchup versus Miami because there's so many other people I like, but for $6,000, he's actually coming off of his best performance of the entire season against the Bills last week. He almost completed like 80% of his passes, 78.8, 270 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, but he's going against the Miami in a game, like we said, they will be looking to dominate and try to lock up the number 2 seed so they can get the bye. So you can't really go on what Andy Dalton did against them last week. He went off for like almost 38 DK points, but it was all garbage time. But I would expect some big numbers out of Brady here, even if they sew it up early. I mean, as the resident New England fan, how do you feel about Brady this week, Scott?
I can't give objective analysis on Patriots players. I'm not going to use them. I'm too nervous about it. I honestly, they could just end up using this as a get right game for the run game. So, I mean, it's possible that Brady's fine, but I think that you probably see a lot more of White, Burkhead, and Michelle just kind of grinding out yards. I mean, Brady did look a lot more comfortable throwing to the other receivers not named Julian Edelman, which was probably the first time all year that he seemed to have any interest in throwing to more than 2 different people. But yeah, the matchup's really good. It's at home. They do have something to play for here. My concern would be, Brian Flores knows Brady very well. He knows the things that he likes to see defensively. He knows what bothers Brady. He might not have the personnel to necessarily pull off that perfectly, but I think we've seen that Flores has shown some real flashes of being a very smart coach and has gotten a lot of talent, has gotten a lot of results out of very limited talent. So it wouldn't shock me if we just kind of see a mediocre Brady game here, but the Patriots still, get up big, and then we might even see some Stidham by the, midway through the fourth quarter. So Brady is probably fine for cash games. I would be concerned a little bit about the ceiling. This is another guy that's in this middle group that, this week I'm either going to pay up a little bit for Tannehill or I'm going to pay way down. So I think Brady this week is kind of just in that group that I'm not going to be rostering too much.
All right. Speaking of paying way down, is there anyone else left in the quarterbacks? We don't have to get into everybody. Is there anyone in between Brady and Case Keenum all the way down at $4,500 that you would bother starting because of how cheap Keenum is? Which, by the way, the pass catchers over in Washington haven't been that bad. I'm thinking about like a Keenum Sims stack here in this one. So, I mean, before we get into Keenum, do you guys like any quarterback left on the slate seriously for cash or GPP that you like a ton? That's above Keenum at 4,500 between him and like Brady-ish.
We talked a little bit about Darnold, but that's a tough matchup. No, honestly, if I'm paying way down, it's going to be Keenum.
I think I like Baker Mayfield to go out with a meaningless step on the Bengals throat game and like puff his chest out. Like, look what I did in a game that doesn't matter. I can see that happening. Beckham catching 4 touchdowns. I'm not going to do it.
When I look at that Cleveland-Cincinnati game, it's so hard to figure out is it going to be just a Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon game? Or is it going to be an Andy Dalton final hurrah or in Baker Mayfield last game hurrah? Like, I honestly could see this game being 38-35. Andy Dalton throwing up 4 touchdowns, Baker throwing up 3-4 touchdowns, and this game just like having fireworks throughout the entire game. The Battle of Ohio, like, I don't know. I honestly have no problem buying. I got Dalton in 2 leagues and I got Mayfield in 1, and not leagues, but lineups.
I love Chubb to dominate in the game. I'm not so sure about Mixon because they like spread the ball around so much last week, and I'm afraid with Dalton they're going to do it again, and we may not get the volume we necessarily want out of Mixon. So it's like I love Chubb in this one. I'm avoiding Mixon.
The Boyd Dalton stack could be really good, or the Mayfield Landry stack could be really good in my opinion.
Yeah, I like Dalton, but I mean, he's just a little too priced up.
Yeah, he's
59.
Yeah.
God, I wish he was still down in like the mid to low 5s. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential there. I saw a stat earlier today. I was doing some research, and it said that Dalton, even with all the games he missed when they were in that weird Finley experiment, is still 6th in the league in fourth down pass attempts. So they are Cincinnati is going for it. They're doing a lot of weird stuff. They've been feeding Mixon when they've been way down. They've been going for fourth downs for no reason. It's really weird what they've been doing. But it's led to some really good fantasy results. But yeah, that's just the price. I don't know. 59 is a little much for Andy Dalton.
You know what? Philip Rivers is not going to be playing for the Chargers much longer. He may not be back. Last time I checked, he was somewhere in the vicinity of like 500 or 600 short of getting 5,000 yards for the year. If I'm them, I'm throwing it on every play against in that matchup against Kansas City, and I'm trying to get him his yards. So get your one lineup of Philip Rivers just for the memories of Philip Rivers. Get your Rivers lineup in there for him to throw for 700 yards passing. So Case Keenum, are we going to talk about him, or are we just going to move on? He's cheap, so we're going to use him, and that's kind of it.
I like you mentioned it. I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on it, but Washington has been pretty useful for fantasy. I mean, I had a decent bit of Haskins exposure last week. It was a really good matchup, and he looked really good until he was going
to like return 5 times return before he got injured.
he was trending really well. I think he still almost hit value. I think he was like around between 2 and 3 ROI. In one good half. So. Yeah, I mean it's not always pretty, but he is, I think, the cheapest starter this week.
By far. I think he's $500 or $600 cheaper than anyone else.
Yeah. So
we've known that he put up points.
Yeah.
And the Redskins have gone for only 11 times on fourth down this year, so don't expect a lot of fourth down plays from him.
Okay. Running backs.
We're talking about fourth downs, boys. Come on.
I'm tired of talking. Someone lead us off with the running backs. Is the number 1 running back of the week Derrick Henry?
I think it might be. I mean,
I don't think so. Aaron Jones. It's just gonna be the Aaron Jones show. They're gonna protect Aaron Rodgers, and they're gonna have Aaron Jones run it against Detroit's horrible.
I think with Jamal banged up, they may not actually. I think they may try to save Jones.
I think because Jamal Williams is banged up, they're just gonna continue to run Aaron Jones and make sure he's hot going in. They have to win this game, aren't they? They're fighting for 2.
What do you mean? Are they pregnant? What was that?
Wait, what?
They're fighting for 2. What is that?
Aren't they fighting for the 2 spot?
They're fighting for the 1.
Well, yeah. Well, you're not gonna get
Seattle.
There's a lot.
Beast mode.
The top 2 are still very much up in the air.
Is that what it is?
But yeah, I don't know.
Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry. For me, I'm taking Aaron Jones.
I still think
Henry
if you can put him in is the top guy. I mean, obviously he's expensive, but we saw last week with Will Grier exactly what I think a lot of people thought we would see was just a ton of checkdowns to McCaffrey, which in DraftKings is completely fine. Just rack up those point receptions and churn out those yards. McCaffrey himself chasing a little bit of history, right? He's still going to go for the 1,000 receiving, 1,000 rushing.
Yeah, 1,000 receiving. The guy's a beast.
Oh, yeah.
And they say they're not going to sit him at all. Last year, I believe in week 17, he only played like 1 series or something horrible. Yeah, but it's still risky. I wouldn't, even though they say they're not going to sit him, I'd find it hard to believe he plays this whole thing at his normal volume. That'd be crazy.
How much does he need to get 1,000? Because I bet you any money they play him until he hits it.
I don't think they care.
I bet he does. I bet he's going
to. I bet he does. I don't think they do.
He's 67 away from receiving. He's already there rushing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like Henry. I love Zeke a lot too at 8,000. This is why you got to pay down a quarterback, in my opinion. There's also a lot of cheap wide receivers, is because Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Zeke, they are all expensive. They all need to win. Zeke especially. I mean, he's had 20 plus touches every week the last like 6 or 7 weeks, I believe. And they're obviously Barkley just shredded the living shit out of what the heck? What am I talking about? Washington. So I don't know.
Barkley had like 180 yards in the first quarter. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, you know what saved his season? There was a couple of people that were like, really, really, really low on Barkley, and then he has this one good game, and now his dynasty value is all the way back up. Kamara, people were ready to like dump him in the trash. There was polls online. What's the earliest you'll take him? And people are like, I wouldn't take him before the 4th round, which I think we all had a conversation. I don't know. At least I talked to Nick about it. I'm still taking him in the top 5. I know you didn't totally agree with that one, but
I didn't totally
obviously you have this game, and now everyone's back on board. Top 3 pick, Alvin Kamara.
Nick Faber, noted Alvin Kamara hater. Got it. Okay.
But anyways, he's had 20 plus touches for the last like several weeks. Mari Cooper, I don't know what the hell is going on with him. They're sitting him because he's too slow. But they need to win this game.
Squeaky wheel potential with Amari this week, though. He's been very vocal in his complaints about his role in that offense. So
I think it's the Michael Gallup is the wide receiver 1 week, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're jumping ahead a bit here, but yeah.
All right, let's get back to Zeke. 20 plus. I mean, I think he's the only guy that I feel, because Aaron Jones, I'm not sure if he'll definitely play the whole game if they get up. Derrick Henry I love, but he's still nursing a little bit of an injury. Zeke's the only guy I'm like 100. Like the other guys I like a lot, but Zeke's the only guy I'm 100% positive is going to get tons of work and probably do well. So he's probably a lock for every single lineup I have. I doubt I'll have too many without him.
Interesting.
I like for high price guys. I like Chubb a lot too. Yeah, I think Cleveland is just stubbornly going to want to really show that they are not as bad as people think they are, even though they've been terrible. So for whatever reason, that team has just been very stubborn about. They've been trying to feed certain guys almost to the detriment of actual results in the games. Like they want to prove that getting OBJ wasn't a waste, so they just keep feeding him deep targets. They want to prove that picking up Hunt wasn't a weird or bad move, so they're just trying to give him a ton of work too. So it wouldn't surprise me if Chubb just gets a ton of carries in this game, and it's the Bengals. It's a great matchup. So I don't know. If you're looking at that top kind of 12 group, I like Chubb a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think Nick agrees too, right? Do you have anything to add about Nick Chubb or any of the guys we just talked about?
Nick Chubb. I think Aaron Jones is better than everyone we just talked about. Derrick Henry's right up there. Zeke obviously can't go wrong. I mean, how do you want to do it? You want to stash you want to pay a ton for your running backs and buy and sell everywhere else. I mean, if you want to, then I think those are your top 4 guys you're gonna be looking at. If not, grab one of those 4 guys. Hopefully, you grab the right one.
Here's 2 interesting guys that are a little cheaper. That based on last week, people are going to be probably excited about. One you should probably be excited about. One you should avoid like the plague. Miles Sanders, he's 6,800 at the Giants. Devontae Freeman is 6,500 at Tampa Bay. One of these guys you should be excited about. One of these guys you should avoid like the plague. Does anyone want to guess who you should avoid like the plague?
Freeman.
Per usual, other than
Freeman. Yeah, beast.
Well, it's more the matchup, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, fluky kind of last week, though. 53 yards and a touchdown on the ground, and then a season-high 9 catches and a touchdown through the air, which I would not expect at all. Plus, obviously,
for this season, his performance last week was fluky, but he's been in a lot of good matchups. He's had a lot of good potential spots for fantasy and just hasn't come through in any of them. This was just the first one that he actually did. So, yes, it's fluky in that sense. But that talent,
not a good one.
The talent is there for whatever reason. It just hasn't had the results this year.
Yeah.
But no, that said, I still wouldn't want to use Freeman. I wouldn't trust it. I would have to choose
Tampa Bay. Fewest rushing yards given up. So
Freeman played who last week?
Jacksonville.
And who plays Jacksonville this week?
Marlon Mack.
Marlon Mack, right above Miles Sanders. That's the boy you want to be going to get right there.
Is he though?
He had just as good a matchup last week against Carolina.
Jordan Wilkins is like kind of taking a gigantic bite out of the apple there.
I mean, he's got the red zone touch. He got the touchdown last week. That's fine. Marlon Mack was the man. He's now going against a pitiful Jacksonville defense. We showed that he was the running back one, coming back with 16 carries, lead the team. 95 yards. I expect the same production, but with a couple touchdowns this week.
If it's a non-full PPR, then yeah, I think Mack's a fine play. But he just doesn't get the receiving work that would make me want to take him over somebody else who has more of a pass catching skill set in the repertoire. That's why I like Sanders more. That's why I would maybe even like Gurley more in that price range. That's what makes Freeman so attractive is that receiving work.
Yeah.
And you talk about Jacksonville, like Carolina is also terrible against the running backs. And last week, Mack was just okay. He didn't destroy. It wasn't exactly smashing in that spot. He returned value, but it wasn't it's a very capped ceiling. You really need a lot of touchdowns.
In a game script that was beautiful for a running back as well. In a game script that just screamed big running back game.
That was Marlon Mack getting back into it. He had missed 4 games, came back and played a fair share, but then this was his game to get back into it. And I think they're going to go out, end the season with a hell of a Marlon Mack game.
I mean, I can see it. It makes sense the way you're describing it. It's just for $100 less. I like Miles Sanders a lot more. And Boston Scott is not great. I know that there's some people out there like John Hogue who really love him, but I mean, they already said Jordan Howard is probably ready to go, but they said they're not rushing him back, which in reality means they don't want him. Because I think they just believe in Miles Sanders. In a game they absolutely have to win, I think they're going to give it to their guy, especially we already said who's Carson Wentz going to throw the ball to. Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders. So I love Sanders for 6,800 if you want to pay down.
Come on.
I don't love Miles Sanders this week. I just don't love him. I think he's going to be average. I think he's going to be fair. A low end running back 1, high end running back 2. I don't know how we want to. For the price, that's a pretty good price, but I don't know. I don't love him.
I disagree with you.
I'm gonna go against you on this one too, Nick.
Let's recap this next week.
At 5,300, we'll go with the chalkiest player of the season from Week 16, Mike Boone. Is there any chance he doesn't go off versus Chicago when no one rosters him? I mean, is that like a certainty?
This is the exact repeat of the Patrick Laird experience where, week 11, puts up those double-digit points. Everybody's on him. Well, a lot of people are on him for week 12. Gives us 2 points. Everybody's promptly off him, and then he just comes back again with another double-digit day. It wouldn't shock me at all if he actually comes through with a decent week after this. I mean, all the fawning press coverage that he got leading up to that was the most out of control hype train I've seen this season. It was just a perfect storm of weird things all happening at once, and he just really did not show up at all for that game. It was brutal.
Is Madison playing this week? That says he's practicing. If he plays, then no, I'm not taking Mike Boone.
Oh, I was joking. I'm not playing Mike Boone anywhere. That was a joke.
Okay, good. I don't know what we're discussing here, but no, boys, don't take Mike Boone.
If Madison's out, honestly, I would look more at Amir Abdullah.
Don't look at any of them, guys. I don't. No.
I do like the matchup though. I don't mind running back for Minnesota against Chicago like that. I wouldn't mind starting, but right now I don't know if it is Madison, if they're going to split.
Minnesota can literally just pull out their sleeping bags. They're in the 6th seed and cannot move from it. There's no reason for anyone with a name on their jersey to play. They should put the water boy in.
Might.
Which is why you might want a pass catching running back in that offense. So Amir Abdullah, $3,900. Sure, why not?
I feel like they're just going to run this ball 150 times this game. They're not even going to pass the ball once, and it's just going to be all running back for Minnesota. So at that point, maybe you do want to take Mike Boone if he's this low. But probably not. I wouldn't recommend it.
Do we have a bet here between you guys, Mike Boone versus Abdullah? Let's make a point.
Just ROI? I mean,
I'll take Mike Boone in a bet.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go Abdullah.
How much is that? How much is Abdullah?
He's $3,900.
Oh,
yeah. And Boone's 53.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
That's what I'm okay.
But no, I want to see what
catching up, guys.
Though.
I will say.
Why are we wasting everyone's time? How about people that actually want to win money? Let's move on.
Yeah.
How about Oakland? DeAndre Washington is 5,200 at Denver, which isn't the greatest matchup, but he's seen 20 plus touches the last couple of games with Jacobs out, and for some reason, Gruden wants to continue to tell people there's a chance he's going to play. There's a chance he's going to play Josh Jacobs, and he literally just texted a picture of him getting knee surgery. Which where did that come from? I didn't even know he had an injury to his leg. What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Either way,
he's not playing the shoulder, but
okay. Dance Revolution injury.
But yeah, either way, he's not playing in this one. So in a matchup that's not fantastic, what do you guys think of DeAndre Washington for only 5,200?
There's plenty of other guys I'd rather have lower than him.
Plenty?
Like 3 right off the top of head. Sony Michel, who's about to have 25 carries and 100 yards. I'd rather have Gus Edwards, who's going to do the same. Damian Williams, who's already shown that he's about to be the Damian Williams we saw last year in the final stretch of this season. He's just been waiting this whole time, baiting everybody. I'm taking all 3 of those boys over Washington.
I mean, I don't know. I can definitely see them doing better, but I don't know if I'd be confident about it.
I mean, yeah, Michelle, I would definitely prefer over Washington. If I wanted to take a little bit of a risk, I mean, even Ronald Jones, I might roll over Washington. I don't know. I don't have a ton of faith in in the Raiders.
If Washington had a better matchup, yeah, I would love them, and I like the fact that they're fucking playing their hearts out right now. They need a lot of things to go their way, and I don't know about you boys, but there isn't any other story I want to see come to like fruition than the Raiders making the playoffs. I think that would be outstanding. That would be hilarious, and it'd be a great way to have a Week 17. But no, I don't like the matchup. So
I'm sure everybody who wants to bet on that wild card weekend matchup is really pulling for the Raiders to somehow get in the playoffs.
Oakland has what, like 5 things they need to happen, but they're all actually rather likely, right?
Yeah,
very likely.
There's a lot of them, but they're all like definitely
Patriots.
I mean, isn't everything they need to happen the likelihood to happen? Aren't they all like the betting favorites that they need to win?
It's the Patriots, the Texans, the Colts, the Raiders, and something. I think Pittsburgh. Whoever plays Pittsburgh needs to lose.
Baltimore needs to lose. Which
the Ravens. There you go. Ravens, Colts, Patriots, Texans, and Raiders all need to win for them to make it. Which is
doable.
RG3 needs to win. Colts need to win. Patriots need to win. Should happen. Texans need to beat the Titans. Possible. And then the Raiders need to beat the Broncos. All of it's like, that would be crazy. And then not only that, but last week they needed like 5 things to go right. And every single one of them went right. Like, this is crazy. It would be so fun to see that happen.
Well, you mentioned Damian Williams. I actually agree with you quite a bit on Damian. I think that, I mean, he didn't do for some reason, I thought he was going to end the season. Like, obviously this was several weeks ago. He was going to end the season like last season and kind of like grab the bull by the horns and take the job back and confuse everyone going to the offseason. It hasn't happened that way. But yeah, I think versus the Chargers, even though they have like a pretty good pass defense, you can kind of beat them on the ground pretty well. So I think Williams for 4,700 has probably some of the best upside you can at the lower. I don't think there's anyone with a higher upside that cheap in the entire slate, at least in my opinion.
Bonifan.
Well, what about your boy Carry-On there, Nick?
Carry-On down there, but man, God damn it, I hope he plays one series and he goes out. But I got Carry-On in a lineup. because he is so cheap and has the possibility.
Very cheap. Very cheap. Yeah.
Green Bay defense, like, I don't know, maybe.
I will. Yeah. Back to Damian real quick. If McCoy is another healthy scratch, then yeah, like I think you have to have a little bit of Damian exposure for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Naheem Hines, I wish they'd give him a bunch of work as a reward for last week's effort. Didn't he have 2 returns for a touchdown? But again, you're not touching him. You're not touching Wilkins, right? Even though Wilkins is getting a decent amount of work, are you considering him for only 4,100 versus Jacksonville, who just got shredded?
No.
I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world.
He's limited. I mean, he does have a little bit of an ankle thing, but I think he's going to be fine. But, grain of salt for anyone listening to this, we do know he has an ankle thing, but I don't think it's serious. But for how cheap he is, if he goes out and did what he did last week, it's really not that bad. But,
I'd rather have Wilkins than Abdullah.
Well, yeah. I mean, hold on. Would you, Scott?
I don't know. I think they might, like you said. I think as a reward for Hines, they might work him more in. We could just see Mac. Mac's going to dominate the touches here. So it's just a matter of which of those 2 other guys is going to have more potential upside. And I think given the skill set, actually, in the physical numbers in terms of just like the athletic ability. I mean, Hines is a much more athletic guy than Wilkins. He's also not hurt. So, yeah, I mean, I think I would probably, I don't know. I would probably go Abdullah over Wilkins. This is going to be terrible when it gets played back in a week, but yeah.
I will. Why are we even talking about those boys? The real question is, is anyone even touching Bonifan? Do we really think McCaffrey's playing the whole game?
I don't think no matter what happens, Bonifan's going to be much of a factor no matter what.
It's nothing no matter what?
No. Nothing. One cheap guy here is Boston Scott. We already talked about him a little bit. He is only 4,100. People were expecting big things out of him last week, at least hoping for it. Obviously, it was the Miles Sanders show. Boston Scott, he had like 3 rushes for 12 yards, and he had 6 catches on 6 targets for 7 yards. So he'll probably have a bounce back from that. But at that cheap price? Are you going to be taking a shot on him in this game against, a poor Giants defense that they are limited in their options? With Ertz out, they're going to probably have to rely on getting creative with the run game. So do we think that they'll try to use Scott and Sanders, and Scott can get enough work in this one? At 4,100, you're going to risk a chance on that? Or, is last week just kind of scare you off, risking a 0?
I'm not going to take the risk.
It depends on how you're setting your lineup. For all the guys that are as cheap as he is, I would take him. But if I am taking him, that means I want Julio, I want Mike Thomas, I want Christian McCaffrey, I want Ryan Tannehill, I want the top of the top of the top, and I'm just throwing Scott in, hoping that I get 8 points from him and that it can at least bounce me up. But no.
All right. And the last running back I want to mention, if you need to save all tons of money, 3,600 is Mr. Peyton Barber, who is good for a vulture touchdown every once in a while. Is there anyone else in the dredges of the dark underworld that you're considering in any of these prices? I'm not actually going to be putting Peyton Barber anywhere, but whatever. If you actually loved a team and you had to punt a spot, Peyton Barber is probably one of the guys I'd look for because he quite literally is attracted to stealing touchdowns. Is there any of these other low rent guys you have interest in?
So I do just want to mention Laird, I think, is back on the board here. Gaskin is now on IR too. So, you can actually beat New England on the ground. Laird has shown that he is a good pass catching, back. He was a hybrid kind of receiver running back in college. So that's really where he was making, his inroads into the DFS community initially, was with his receiving work. So, he's going to be probably the feature back for Miami this week. So I think it's possible he could return decent value. If you're just looking for somebody cheap to get you double-digit points and maybe not much more, I think he could definitely do that.
I agree. You took the words out of my mouth. Laird, especially if it's going to be Sony Michel on the other side getting a lot of work, it's going to be a lot of runs both ways. Laird can catch it out of the backfield too. I love a Laird play this week.
And for everyone wondering, he is 4,300, so he'd be just a little cheaper than Naheem Hines and just a couple hundred less than Kerryon Johnson. So yeah, he's down there, very discounted. So there's actually some decent options if you want to go that way. But again, I'd rather pay up and go with go with Derrick Henry, go with Aaron Jones, go with Ezekiel Elliott, and then I love Miles Sanders. So I think Zeke and Sanders will be in pretty much all my lineups. Who are your guys' favorite player running back this week?
Yeah, I agree. I think Zeke's pretty safe. I like Sanders. I actually kind of like the combo. We kind of skipped over them, but for actually mid-price guys that I kind of like, I don't mind the Chargers duo, Eckler and Gordon. I think the pricing isn't fantastic, but I think either one of those guys is very capable of turning really high value in for you. It's just a matter of guessing which one it's going to be. So I think either one of those two, if you want to fit them in, is fine. And one last cheap play that if you just really want to home run swing it, Tony Pollard. It's really, really hit or miss, and he was really bad last week after a fantastic week a couple weeks ago. But he's just 4,000. If you've got some of those free tickets in DraftKings that you just need to use, in a quarter contest, sure, I think throw him in one.
Yeah, I'll stick to my gut here and say Aaron Jones for sure. I also like Nick Chubb, but I really like the three guys I mentioned in the latter half of this conversation towards running backs. I like Sony Michel a lot. I like Damian Williams a lot, and I like Gus Edwards a lot.
Okay. Moving into wide receiver. I don't like anyone with a high price tag this week. I think the most expensive person that I'm considering putting in my lineups is DJ Chark at 5,800 because I love value at or below him so much. Is there anyone high price you guys really like enough to spend this week? There's half of them you can take out because of game script or not sure of their role. So of the high price guys, is there anyone that you guys like?
Devontae, I think it's expensive, and the Slay matchup is potentially problematic, but he's shown throughout the majority of his career to be almost completely matchup proof. So and that's a game that they will be trying to win. I think other than that, What was the threshold we're talking about price wise? 5,800.
5,800. I mean, I like Devontae. I mean, that's more. I didn't include him.
That's a cash game
but
play, I think. If you're going to pay down elsewhere. Perriman, I don't mind at 6,700. Cortland Sutton 64 against Oakland. I don't mind that either. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the more attractive part of this position group is kind of in that mid fives and below price range.
At the very top, I mean, if Julio plays, I don't know why you guys aren't trying to get on Julio. He has just been nothing but a target machine, obviously, but he still has been, even showing when Atlanta has nothing to play for, going against fucking Tampa fucking Bay. Like, it's Julio Jones. If he plays, he's going to catch 13 balls for an insane. If we're buying Sony Michel and Gus Edwards and Peyton fucking Barber and Andy Dalton, like, we're getting these guys. Yeah, I'm buying Julio Jones for sure.
I don't think you should do that. Mine's based on the fact that I'm taking 2 high price running backs, possibly 3. I probably will flex one.
It's only a price thing with Julio, and like honestly, even Devontae is a tough squeeze in some of the lineups I've been trying to build. But you're right. I think Julio definitely. For the talent and for the opportunity, he's priced right though. You're not really.
Right. It's just like you're saying, top guys. Like if we're trying to build a lineup around receivers this week, I have no problem putting Julio in a lot of my lineups. But like, other than that.
Yeah, I agree.
AJ Brown, Tyler Boyd, Bashard Perryman. I like those 3 boys. I don't mind them at all. I know
that's fine. I'm more saying that I'm taking, like, put Henry and Zeke and Sanders down in Penn on my lineup. And I'd rather, if you're telling me I can get those 3 and still get like DJ Chark and Michael Gallup, give me that all day rather than me pay up for another wide receiver. I guess the cheap wide receivers are just too good this week for me. I mean, they're really cheap. I mean, Steven Sims, I mentioned him, 4,700. Kenny Stills is 4,600. Hunter Renfrow is only 4,500.
Like, McLaurin needs 81 yards to catch 1,000, and he's got the quarterback that loves him playing. Like, if Terry plays, I like scoring McLaurin.
I love it. Anyone we didn't mention in that kind of mid tier that you like quite a bit? I know I mentioned DJ Chark, Michael Gallup. I said I don't know what's going on with Amari Cooper. I think that he's had double-digit targets in 4 of the last several weeks, and I think Golden Tate against Philly, who the Dallas failed to take apart last week, but they were close. They missed on a couple of short ones. I think Golden Tate for 5,100. I think Daniel Jones will be able to take advantage there. Golden Tate in the last 6 games that Daniel Jones has been in there has had at least 10 targets too. So I think him for 5,100, he's a really safe play for cash and GPP.
Get Golden Tate and Greg Ward. Get those 2 on both playing each other. That's your best chance of you buying low, in my opinion.
Well, I like Gallup too, 54.
Give me every NFC East receiver there is that's under 6,000. I love it. But yeah, I like those boys.
You probably could fill up a lineup card with all people from the Giants and Philly game and be in decent shape. To be honest, you could probably fill an entire thing, just no defense, but you'd probably be okay. Any cheap guys you really like? Any low end plays that you guys really like?
I like Justin Watson for 4,900. Let's see. Greg Ward we already talked about. I think probably the biggest kind of boomer bust guy for this in this price range that I think is likely to hit is John Ross, 4,500 against Cleveland. And if we're going really cheap, this is not for the faint of heart, but Deshaun Hamilton is at 3,800 against Oakland, home against Oakland. I think that he could be okay. He's looked like he's kind of coming out of his season-long funk a little bit the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I think those are the big ones that stand out to me.
Devontae Adams going to be covered up by Slay all day, so get yourself some Lazard out there if he plays.
I know I mentioned that. I want to get into more detail. Steven Sims for the Redskins, I love at 4,700. If you haven't been paying attention, I mean, against the Eagles in Week 15, he had 5 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown. The next week, he had 6 catches on 10 targets for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns versus the Giants. he also had 9 yards and a couple of carries, which were design plays. Like, they like this guy. They like how athletic he is. They actually designed plays for him to run. So obviously, McLaurin gets a lot more attention, but he's at 6,100 for 4,700. If you're looking to save money, Sims is going to be really involved in a game where Washington would love nothing more than to spoil Dallas's season. Yeah. So I think with Keenum out there, chucking the ball up, I think that Sims is actually a pretty cool play for GPP in a favorite of mine this week.
Yeah, I used a good bit of Sims last week, and it worked out pretty well. So I'll definitely be going back to the well there. And yeah, like Sims is what I think a lot of Washington fans hoped that Trey Quinn was going to be. He's kind of stepped in and been their possession guy, operating mostly out of the slot. So yeah, lots of like there. I'm always going to be interested in really cheap slot receivers that are seeing good amount of targets, and Sims is just seeing a ton of them the last 3 weeks here.
Love me some Sims. He gave him the lead against the Patriots.
Yeah. Hunter Renfrow is 4,500. I mentioned him a little bit earlier. I mean, Tyrell Williams came in as the wide receiver 1. Is there any doubt that Hunter Renfrow is the wide receiver 1 there? I mean, he's looking more and more like a player that is going to be a star for them coming up. Obviously, last week was a little fluky, but still 7 catches on 9 targets for 107 yards, career highs in catches, targets, and yards. And he's going against Denver in this one. We would assume with the position he plays on the field, he won't be seeing Chris Harris. So for 4,500, I love him against Denver quite a bit, especially with Jacobs out. I think he'll be, for the second week in a row, the primary option for Derek Carr. And
if I was Denver, I mean, what about a banged up Tyrell would really scare you enough that you would shadow up waste shadowing Chris Harris on him? Like, I would be shadowing Renfrow and doubling Darren Waller and just saying, like, sure, go ahead, try to beat us Tyrell Williams.
I know. I mean, is Harris usually patrol that the middle of the field like that? Usually,
I think I don't think you can shadow Renfrow. I don't think you can put Harris on him running the slot.
Yeah, I don't think they really have done that with Harris. So that's why I assume that they may not have Harris shadow Williams at all. That's probably a waste, like you said. But I don't think he'll be shadowing Renfrow.
Yeah, I agree.
For 4,500, I think it's worth the risk regardless, because they don't have a lot of other options on Oakland. But I love Renfrow too. If I want to go super cheap at wide receiver, I think Sims and Renfrow are a couple of good options, and also Kenny Stills. With Will Fuller out, he's only 4,600. We don't know how much Houston is going to be trying this one, if they're going to be giving Watson a seat. But again, when Will Fuller is out, Kenny Stills does step up in a big way. So he's a guy you could consider.
Not every time.
No. I mean, it's inconsistent. So I'd much rather go with the other option.
Hit rate here. It's not. Let's not just say, because I mean, I think the most recent time that Fuller was a late scratch pregame, Stills did nothing. I think that was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it's risky. Just know that there's definitely some assumed risk there.
Yeah, I mean, it's more for his price. I mean, he's had double-digit DK points in 3 of his last 4 games. He caught a couple of touchdowns against the Titans in Week 15. So for as cheap as he is, with Fuller definitely out, I think you could reasonably expect him to be a decent return for his price. With the other guys I mentioned, he'll be involved. I mean, he's inconsistent, but he'll be involved. Whatever. It is what it is. It's 4,600. Anyone else you guys want to talk about a wide receiver?
Allen Lazard was my boy. I like him low. I'm good.
Should we mention Christian Kirk?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's pretty cheap. 4,700. We know that I don't know exactly what they're going to do with Ramsey as far as coverage here, whether it's going to be Kirk or Fitz or what they're going to do. But, Kirk is somebody, I think, if you're just talking about upside for a low price guy, he's got a high ceiling potential here. We see, Arizona runs a ton of plays. They're going against the Rams, which I don't know. They're not exactly a lights out defense. There's some potential there.
The guy I like for bargain basement is Deshaun Hamilton. He's only 3,800 versus Oakland. Drew Lock is fun to watch. Obviously, their number one there is Sutton, but all the attention is going to be being placed on him. Deshaun Hamilton the last couple of weeks, not too bad. He had 9 targets in week 15.
Well, the last week really result wise was good, but I mean he's been seeing a lot more targets, definitely a lot more than he was earlier in the year. I mean he definitely was a bit of a disappointment heading into the year. Just I think people thought that he was going to just kind of take the next step up this year with how he looked at the end of the year last year. And that did not happen at all. But yeah, I think it's been 15 total the last 2 weeks target wise.
Yeah, 9 in week 15. He had 6.
Did nothing with it though. But like
he did have 65 yards and a touchdown last week.
Well, no, I'm saying like 2 weeks ago did nothing. Week 16 he looked really good, which is why. I mean, I mentioned him very early on. We were talking about cheap guys, but yeah, he's sub 4. So yeah, I like him.
Moving on to tight end. I mean, is Goddard kind of chalk? Is he just chalk? Is that all it is? Is he just someone for his price to just be launched in everywhere?
I would like Higbee more than him, but I feel like everyone and their mother is going to be playing Higbee this week. So
between the 4 straight 100-yard receiving games, the flow chart matchup. I mean Higbee's I think definitely going to be super chalky. Hooper for a couple hundred more, I think is a decent play too. And honestly, I think the ownership is going to be down on him. He hasn't been tremendous since he came back. So
I'm not sure I'd trust him either, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a risky play, but I think the opportunity is solid there. He's going to see looks because essentially it's just been because I think Julio has 35 targets the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So they're definitely going to be plenty of opportunities, plenty of targets for him. I think available there. But yeah, I think between Higbee and Goddard, I think those are like the top 2 ownership guys this week.
Yeah, I like if you're looking for anything cheaper, I like Mike Gesicki, who's if for anyone not paying attention, he's like become a what? What'd you say?
Tough matchup though.
I don't know. They shut down wide receivers, the Patriots, but they've struggled against tight ends at times. And Gesicki's
at times, yeah. But I mean, Patrick Chung is a really good guy. He's the tight end guy. Here's
the thing. This is again, we're talking GPP. This is if you're trying to probably save some money because I think Goddard and Higbee is the direction you want to go. He's way down in 4,000. Is there anyone else below those guys that are super cheap? Like I think Gesicki would be the most interesting of them. He had 12 targets against the Bengals last week. Obviously that was against the Bengals, but he did catch 6 of them for 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been seeing a lot of volume and catching a lot and getting looks in the red zone. So I think for 4,000 against Miami or against New England, Miami, a team that gives New England fits sometimes, and they will be trying to do it. I think there's I don't know. I mean, people like Eifert this week for 3,400. I think I'd rather go with Gesicki for 4,000.
That's an IR trip waiting to happen. I mean,
I feel like Rudolph.
There are some cheap tight ends I do like though.
All right, what do you like more in Gesicki at 4,000? He's my favorite. Who do you like?
Well, I mean, for 200 more, I like Jonnu Smith a lot more than Gesicki. I think if you're going cheaper, I don't mind Caden Smith. And if you want to go really, really cheap, I actually think Jeremy Sprinkle could be a fun GPP play. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of options at tight end this week.
If Caden Smith had a better matchup, it would be the Caden Smith show all day for as cheap as he's going. Philadelphia hasn't been a great for the tight end position, so I still don't mind taking that. And I think Rudolph has a great bounce back week this week against Chicago. I think he was dormant last week, just like he was the whole offense, as DFS says. So give me Kyle Rudolph in a bounce back week.
Okay. Defense. The lawyers, like always, are telling us we have to talk about defense and special teams. Who wants to talk about, besides the Green Bay defense, who wants to talk about a defense that you should play this week?
Don't mind the Colts against Jacksonville. Don't mind Falcons at Tampa Bay. I think, honestly, Green Bay is as cheap as I want to go.
Really? I got a couple cheap ones I would consider.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing is I don't think you absolutely need to go that cheap. I mean, you can, but there's just a ton of value here on the low ends everywhere. So I don't think you're not in a situation where you're absolutely, just throwing in the subfloor defenses just because it's a price fit. You
wouldn't want to consider a defense that had a fumble recovery and 5 sacks against a playoff team last week?
I would consider him.
That would be the Arizona Cardinals at the Rams for 2,400.
And if Chandler Jones is going to get 4 more sacks, then tack that up.
I mean, Jared Goff has a lot of things.
A lot of time talking about how we think Sean McVay is going to come out and just, pull I'm still an offensive genius kind of game out here, against the Cardinals. So, I mean, you have to, if you're going to buy into that narrative, then I wouldn't be as bullish against the Cardinals.
If we're going real cheap, I mean, let's not count the Raiders. They're playing Drew Lock. Drew Lock has looked all right, but it's still Drew Lock. It's still a young quarterback. The Raiders are fighting for everything and their mother right now. The city is on the line right now. Not really on the line.
Yeah, but a city that they really care about.
But still, the Raiders are playing for a hell of a lot. So I would not be surprised to see Drew Lock kind of be flustered and throw some picks, and one of them for a pick 6.
Another one I do like is Tennessee. They're on the road for Houston, but they have to win. Houston does not have to. They could be sitting some players. Will Fuller's out there, insanely inconsistent. Their last 4 games, they've had 7 takeaways, 12 sacks, and a couple of defensive touchdowns. So I think Tennessee will be doing everything in their power to win this one, and Houston may not be. So I think for 2,800, if you can save some money in any bet.
Can Houston move up at all?
I think they can, but inconsequentially.
Yeah. So okay.
Like they can't get a bye or anything. So they're not really fighting for anything that's worth risking much. So I'm not sure they're going to be doing nothing very crazy in this one.
So is that for a home game in Wild Card Weekend?
For Houston?
Yeah, like between Houston and Tennessee.
Tennessee's got to win to get in, period.
Houston locked up the division. No, it's not for but Houston can move up to the 3 seed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not fighting for a bye or anything. So, I mean, they could be fighting for home field, but I don't necessarily know if that's worth them, especially with Watson walking around with a knee issue last week. Every time he ran the ball, I just think I see them kind of taking it easy in this one. Plus, the teams that you're likely to face again, a lot of times in these end of season games, people like to kind of hold their cards and not show everything against a team that they could conceivably be facing in the next couple of weeks.
You're assuming way too much of Bill O'Brien as a coach here. If you're thinking that he's putting any kind of that much thought into his game planning, I think you're
Can we take a moment to discuss that the Houston Texans about 5 weeks ago said publicly that they're still not hiring a GM next year?
Oh, God. I mean, why not? It worked out for this year, right?
You don't have any draft picks. What's the GM for anyway?
Yeah, scoreboard, bro.
Scoreboard, bro. All right. Anyone else want to talk about anything whatsoever? We've gone on and we've covered everything for week 17.
I just want to mention this. I mean, it's somewhat DFS related, but how absurd it is that Sean Payton came out and was like, "Oh yeah, no, we're gonna play our guys." When what was it, 2 years ago? He had the exact same situation. And he had 4 starters go down to injury. Like, what are you talking about? You're not going to be playing a ton of your starters long amounts of this game, and if you are, you're an idiot, and you deserve to.
Mark Ingram says hi, right?
Yeah, I that one blew my mind when I saw the sound bites coming from him. I was like, "What are you talking about? This is an idiotic argument that you're trying to make right now."
All right. Any predictions going into the weekend, non-DFS related? Betting? Anything you want to tell everyone? I know we have a couple. I know Nick's really into betting. I know you are. Is there any advice you can give anybody before we sign off?
Run away. Just run as far away as you can.
Week 17 is extremely tough. Do not try to parlay shit. Do not try to do anything crazy like that. Go for your one-on-ones. Get the ones that seem concrete. That you would bet your mortgage on. That you bet your life on. If you're not willing to bet your life on it, don't go betting. But listen to this lineup I made throughout this show here. What do we think about this? Oh wait, I lost it. So never mind. Oh no, it's right here. Carson Wentz, Derrick Henry, Zeke Elliott, Sims Jr., Tate, Watson, Goddard, Sony Michel, Packers defense. Pretty much boys that we all talked about, boys that we all like. That leaves you $300 left over. That's a lineup for a championship right there, baby.
It's fantastic. Carson Wentz. I'm not sure about that.
I know. To be honest, I wanted to put Tannehill in there, but I'm not sure about Tannehill.
Carson Wentz. Who can you get for $300 more? You can get Daniel Jones. I'm not so sure I wouldn't rather have Daniel Jones in that same game, to be honest.
I almost thought that same thing, but I felt like you guys were more subject to the Carson Wentz. I wanted to make this.
Well, you were just talking up Goff. Why not just throw him in there?
It could, but I also was talking about the Cardinals' defense.
That's what I was just saying. You can't have it both ways.
Although
I
and Derrick Henry, but thought the same thing. You can't have it both ways. It's going to be one or the other for those two. So pick.
No, it's only one. It's only one.
And I'm picking Henry. I don't pick Tannehill.
Nice. Last week, and I won 2 championships: the Kings Classic and the FF Mercs Charity League. And I was forced to start Christian McCaffrey against the Colts defense.
Wow,
I'm sure you really deliberated that one.
And then Kenny Golladay versus the Denver defense, which Denver defense didn't do well, but Kenny Golladay did okay. So that worked out. So I had to do like the cardinal sin of things you shouldn't do, and it worked out. So that
I was going to ask you while we're going through receivers, are you going back to the well for Kenny Golladay against the Packers?
No, I'm not.
Kenny Golladay about to put up $180 this week.
I hope not. All right. So DFS, we'll be back for some playoff games, but we'll probably be doing some betting shows along the way. And, we'll have the big Super Bowl. Nick wasn't here last year. You got to join us. We have the big prop bet extravaganza.
Yes.
Where we go through all of them, the Gatorade, the freaking halftime shows. We do it all.
Yellow Gatorade. No, orange Gatorade. No, blue Gatorade. I don't know.
All right. See you, everybody. Follow FF Mercs at FF Mercs. I'm at Matt Williams, METTWY77 IMS. Where can they find you, fine gentlemen?
Find me on Twitter at Nick Faber NFL.
I'm on Twitter. I'm at SMICH_5. And good luck this week, everybody.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, you can shout any of us on Twitter. We'll give you last minute advice, but it's all a crapshoot. This was a waste of your time. 1 hour. You'll never get it back.
Go Tigers, baby.
Where's your shirt? Scott?
Are we doing a football or baseball show?
All right. See you, everybody.
Peace.